September 5th meeting, and I apologize, we were running a little bit late in our session back there, but we're back out here now. This morning for our invocation, I'm scheduled for that, but I've invited a special guest this morning, Dr. Tom Harper. He's the pastor of the Second Baptist Church in Goldsboro, holds a bachelor's degree in arts in Bible, seminary degree in Bible, and a doctorate of ministries and pastoral studies. He has pastored 50 years in South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina. He's co-founded 3 Christian schools and has taught kindergarten through grade 12. If you come on that, Mr. Harper, I appreciate it. To the podium.
Let's pray.
Come up to the mic. We got to get you on camera.
Oh, no. Let's pray. Our Father, we're so thankful this morning for the privilege of standing in your presence. You've told us to pray anywhere about everything that comes into our lives. Today we are a needy people in search of your will, in search of strength to carry out your will for us individually, as a county, as a state, as a nation. Lord, I pray that you might have a hold of our hearts today. We pray that you would be with our commissioners and those elected officials, right on up to the President of the United States. Thank you again for your faithfulness to America, how we love our nation, and yet somehow we've gone astray from following the will of God. We do pray that you would be with our pastors in America today. Give them some insight to the Word of God. And I pray that as we stand before our people in our churches, that we might plead with you to give each one in our congregation, in our nation, a heart for God. Thank you again for what America has meant in days gone by, in years gone by, for the red, white, and blue, and for what it stands for. And we ask your blessing upon this meeting today. Help us to do what you would have us do. Help us to do right, not what is convenient. And thank you again for being so merciful, so gracious. We do pray for those who are in harm's way today, not only our military, but for those who are still suffering from the ravages of the hurricane that just passed. I pray for protection for those in the way or in the path of the one that's making up now. And just watch over and help us to have a heart for you and to obey you according to your will. We pray these things in the blessed name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
May we stand, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I trust everybody's had the opportunity to review the minutes. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I've got a motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion? Look, y'all, those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Mr. Wood, is there any adjustment to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, we have invited Ashland Glather with the Wayne County Tourism Development Authority and also the City's Development Committee. If she's able to make it, then I would like to add her for a short presentation.
Is that going to be 7 under new business or?
Right.
Okay. Mr. Camardi, you'll be able to ask you a question. Did you ask me the one?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Are there any other adjustments to agenda commissioners need? All right. Is there a motion on the floor to accept the agenda as adjusted by Mr. Wood?
So moved.
Motion on the floor, is any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Okay, we're way ahead there. I think we got time to go through the school.
What?
We got time to go through the school. Oh, I'm sorry.
Public comment.
Yeah,
We
we,
ain't got there. Oh, 9:05. Okay, I'm sorry. Hey, we're late. I'm sorry. I'm off today. Too big of a weekend. Public comment section is open. If you'll come up and just state your name and your phone number, and the podium's open. It is open now. one's coming up, so we'll close the public comment section. And we're not ready for the public hearing yet. Do we have time? Oh, you want to do your appointments?
Appointment committee, yes.
We'll get that right in a minute.
All right. Appointment committee met this morning. We'd like to recommend the reappointment of George Wolf to the Wayne County Animal Control Advisory Board. I'd like to put this in form of a motion.
There's a motion on the floor, any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
We'd like to recommend the reappointment of Freeman Hardison to the Wayne County Planning Board. I put this in form of a motion.
Got a motion on the floor, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
I'd like to recommend the reappointment of Claire Sauls and Phil Yelverton to the Eureka Planning Commission. I put this in form of a motion.
Got a motion on the floor, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
I'd like to recommend the appointment of Martha Bryan to the Eastern Carolina Council's Regional Aging Advisory Committee. I put this in form of a motion.
There's a motion on the floor, any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
We'd like to recommend the appointment of Yolanda Wynn to the Wayne County Public Library Board of Advisors. I'd like to put this in form of a motion.
Have a motion on the floor, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
We'd like to recommend the reappointment of Linda Harper to the Wayne County Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee. I'd like to put this in form of a motion.
Got a motion on the floor, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
And that concludes our report.
All right. Now, do we think we got time to do the Spillman thing?
Yes. Let me go to that. I'm going to ask Ryan Preble to come up after I go over this a little bit and go into more detail with you. But essentially, as we were developing the specifications for the 911 Sheriff and Detention Center software package, one of the features we wanted was a seamless failover capability to a backup system in the event of a power outage or server problem. This is critical because we cannot afford to have the 911 center go down. In their proposal, Spillman Software has the capability to provide for this, but did not include the bridging software and additional hardware necessary to do so. The solution is to purchase the additional software and hardware to give us this failover capability with a disaster backup recovery component included. Let me explain. The Spillman migration project necessitates the design of a redundant data center in the event the county loses access or connectivity to the primary site in the new 911 center. To account for that additional site, the IT department requested a second set of equipment identical to the primary site so as to allow for a fully functional backup site. This was not considered as a part of the original design. However, it is a necessary step to ensure the survivability of the 911 Center's core services. An important way this data center redundancy directly helps the county is by protecting critical data. The data we have on our servers and drives is vulnerable to corruption, hardware issues, and even hackers. Redundancies ensure that our critical data exists in more than just one place. There are redundant drives in the data center along with off-site backups. These redundancies allow the county to recover critical data if something happens to our servers or drives so that the 911 center can restart normal operations rapidly. There will come a time when we will need to upgrade these servers or other related infrastructure components. A single site setup would require bringing all the systems offline and stopping normal operations. One of the benefits of data center reliability is that we will be able to upgrade without any downtime. The additional cost is $139,090. $60,000 of this is in annual maintenance cost and will be obtained equally from the existing 911 center budget and the sheriff's budget. The remainder can be financed by increasing the budgeted amount of jail housing fees. In the last 2 months, we have significantly increased these revenues over our budget projections due to Johnston County entering into an agreement with us. We anticipate they will need this space for at least 2.5 years as they seek a solution to jail overcrowding. So this should be a solid source of revenue. Attached for your review is a budget amendment for $140,000 to cover this cost. IT Director Ryan Preble, Craig and I recommend this as the best solution so that we have the capability that we need. And in addition, Sheriff Pierce is also in agreement with this proposal. So With that, I'll be happy to turn it over to Ryan in case you have any further questions about it.
Morning. Mike, recovered from the weekend?
Apparently I have, and I can't even follow
thought
the
the whole
agenda.
list.
Any questions?
Well, I'll ask the same question I did this earlier, and that is, this hardware and software basically allows it to convert from the new 911 center to the backup.
Yes, sir. What we're trying to do is, we just wanted to make sure that both sites, the new 911 center and the backup center that we have, are mirrored in case we do run into a problem, we lose either connectivity or natural disaster, anything, we can just literally flip over to the other site without any interruption in services. That's all we were trying to do with this solution. That was not built into the original solution.
Would that mean that you are going to basically be replacing all of the consoles and the equipment that we currently have in the backup center? In our current center, which is going to be our backup?
I'm not sure if we're replacing those consoles. That's not.
No, I don't think so. I think it's just the servers and everything.
Yeah,
Just the server.
This solution is just servers, sorry, to
Okay.
clarify, this is just a server solution, that would be a 911 question as far as the consoles. Right.
And we're working, trying to get some reimbursement back from the state 911
Yes.
board if
Yeah,
possible.
we're checking to see if we can use 911 funds on this. But if we can't, the plan is to use these increased jail housing fees that we charge other counties.
Okay.
And I believe we have about 19 inmates from the state as well, and then about 45 from Johnston County. So we're up to about 60, we're averaging 61 inmates every day now from outside the county.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
You know, this is a lot of money that we really had not planned for in the initial new 911 center. But the bottom line is, this is all about providing safety to our citizens and the taxpayers and any guests in Wayne County that would need these services. Sometimes it's hard pill to swallow to have to spend this kind of money, but on the other hand, if you can just save one life, all this money will, it doesn't matter. So, Mr. Chairman, if you're ready for a motion, I make a motion that we approve this budget amendment.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the budget amendment. Like we have the contract. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Still got about 5 minutes. I guess we could go ahead and do the consent agenda. We talked at length about it during the 8 o'clock session. Has anybody got any additional questions they want to ask about the consent agenda?
Now I move adoption of the consent agenda.
We got a motion on the floor to adopt consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. We've got that done too. We probably got time to do that disposition of the working dog.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that.
Right, on page 92 of your packet, anytime we retire a 911 canine from active service, we typically turn that over to the handler. As y'all know, the dog is trained with the handler and will only take commands from it. And so what the sheriff is recommending is that we enter into this agreement for disposition of the working dog, Shelley, and it would be turned over to its handler, Corporal Marty McAuliffe of the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. And by law, we can't just give it to him, we have to have $1. Thank you. So I've received $1 from the county attorney, so we're good to go.
I do have a question, and I'm certainly not against this, but how long do typically the working dogs work?
Sheriff is here.
Morning.
More Sheriff.
We try to get a life of 9 to 10 years out of the dog. Normally, we shoot for 10 years, which gives you actual working time of about 9 years by the time you go through the training and everything.
Do we have one in the pipeline, I suppose?
We do, and one of our officers, which is the same officer that's adopting this dog, is now in training for his next dog. He's consenting to go to another series of trainings. It's quite a responsibility to have the dog. You're on call all the time, basically, and not only your shift, but anytime we need extra canines on the ground.
How many do we have?
We have a total of 5 now.
Total of 5. Any other questions of the sheriff? Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
You got a motion on the floor, is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Very good. Thank you, Sheriff.
All right, it's now 9:31, so you can do the public hearing.
Oh, it is, that clock's a little bit off back there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're gonna do the public hearing now, and Chip and Mr. Harris will come up. Public hearing's open.
Yes, sir. This is a public hearing relative to Wayne County's application for funding under the North Carolina Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program for Hurricane Matthew recovery. The county intends to submit an application for a grant of $25,414,784 in CDBG-DR funds to the North Carolina Division of Emergency Management for activities to assist area citizens with their long-term recovery needs. The following is a tentative list of proposed activities in a budget. Homeowner housing rehab, $4.725 million. Homeowner housing reconstruction, $7,808,000. Homeowner mobile home repair, $120,000. Homeowner mobile home replacement, $1.44 million. Acquisition for subdivision construction, $100,000. Temporary rental assistance, $700,000. Flood insurance assistance, $282,000. Homeowner housing repair reimbursement, $600,000. Small rental repair program, $990,000. Multifamily rental housing program, $1.25 million. Small business recovery loan assistance, $750,000. Flood and drainage improvements, $2 million. Neighborhood facilities improvements, $1.6 million. $1.78 million in planning projects and $1.2 million in administration. Wayne County will serve as the grantee of the CDBG-DR project. The city of Goldsboro and the town of Mount Olive will serve as sub-grantees, responsible for the administration of the project activities within their respective jurisdictions. Homeowner and rental housing activities will take place throughout the county and the municipalities. Small businesses can apply for small business loans. Flood and storm drainage improvements, including storm piping, culverts in Fremont, Goldsboro, and Pikeville. Neighborhood facility improvements include installation of generators at emergency shelters in Goldsboro, improvements to Carver Cultural Center in Mount Olive, and construction of a new volunteer fire department station in Seven Springs. All programs and categories of activities are designed and targeted to benefit low to moderate income persons and households. The proposed CDBG-DR project will provide housing benefits to approximately 223 households, 100% of whom will be low to moderate income, and approximately 10 small businesses, at least 25% of whom will be low to moderate income. Of the households benefiting from flood and drainage improvements in neighborhood facilities, at least 75% will need to meet a low to moderate income. No individuals will be permanently displaced as a result of the proposed project activities, and our citizens are provided an opportunity to provide public comment at this public hearing. This is a mandatory public hearing, and we have a resolution for you to adopt after you receive public comment and make any changes you would like. At this time, the state is still developing its guidelines on how some of these programs will run. We don't have those guidelines in hand. That's kind of a development in process. This is part of the process for this county to apply for these funds, to get this money in the works. We have a September the 15th deadline for our final project plan, and we'll have that ready on the 15th as soon as we get these public hearings done and our resolution adopted.
Any questions of Mr. Crumpler before we submit this thing?
Had one question.
I knew you were going to do well.
Why would there be an income limitation on those? I mean, if you're flooded, doesn't make any difference what your income is when you're flooded out.
Those are project guidelines for community development block grants. Those are just that's the way it's run.
That's just the way it
That's
is.
just the way it is from CDBG.
Just wanted you to say it.
The
Thank
Hazard
you.
Mitigation Grant Program, which is a completely different program, which is your typical acquisition program that we have. That's not income related. There's no income requirements, but with CDBG, there are income requirements.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, the floor is open. Anybody want to come up to speak?
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes,
was
sir.
presented these two letters from two individuals in the audience board. Do I read them, or do I give them to the chairman? Okay. So if you will pass these down to the chairman, thank you.
You said I needed to read them.
You're not.
Oh, okay, I'm reading it, but I didn't know what to read out loud. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Your name and.
I am Cheryl Alston, Goldsboro, North Carolina, resident since birth, educated here, and I've been working with our community. And I'm coming before you because for about 10 years I've been working closely with the community. When I found out that Wayne County was a food desert, and Goldsboro in particular. So with that in mind, I've been working trying to figure out how to get food to many members of the community. And when I say food, I'm talking about fresh veggies and fruits. With that 9 years of effort, we've been able to reach many members of the community, but we haven't been able to go as far as we'd like. And this is why I'm here with you today, because many of those people, having been just messed up with the flood, find themselves in a worse condition than they had been before. So with that in mind, I'm coming to you to ask for help financially to be able to implement this program through the Wayne Food Initiative and the Little Washington Growing Group in order to provide access to veggies grown all through the community. And we do have documentation on successes already. And what we need to do is to solicit your help. I do have a letter here that I want to submit to you for further reference. And if I should read it now, that would be proper. Good morning, Commissioners. On behalf of the Little Washington Growing Group Board of Directors, we are providing a written response to respectfully be included as part of the disaster relief funds through the North Carolina Division of Emergency Management to assist area citizens to gain access to fresh fruits and veggies year-round. Our request is for the purposes of acquiring the appropriate equipment, seeds, and proper staffing is needed to meet the demands placed on our surrounding communities who are suffering and do not have access because of the flooding and prior to being in a food desert. The majority of the disaster has compounded already existing food deserts, but the residents simply, due to loss of homes, rehabilitation, and other unforeseen circumstances, don't have the means to have the access to the veggies. The Little Washington Growing Group seeks to fill these gaps with disaster relief funding. We are truly encouraged in the community to make a request in writing to you. We are hopeful that this request will become a part of the grant application to be funded as described in the public announcement. People do need fruits and veggies to prevent malnutrition and to ensure that our low and moderate income families have one less thing to worry about during their journey to recovery. I have my information where I can be reached, and I thank you in advance. And I'm Cheryl Alston. Are there any questions?
If you would give that, yes, sir, go ahead.
If I understand you correctly, Ms. Austin,
Yes.
the opportunities to grow vegetables in the area that you specifically speak of was harmed or will be prevented because of the hurricane?
Yes, that is part of the problem, sir.
And therefore, you're making a request to gain equipment and so forth that would help you to recover
Yes, to recover and
and to
improve.
move forward.
Yes. Any more questions?
If you'll give your letter to the clerk,
All right.
I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Viola Rouse Figueroa. I'm very active in the community. I didn't bring a letter, but majority of the people can get in contact with me if they need to.
Give us your address and phone number.
Physical or?
Well, how we can
no.
reach you. She's got that for the record anyway.
P.O. Box 152, Goldsboro, 27533. Again, I'm Viola Rouse Figueroa, and I stand before the commissioners today in just to inform you guys that I am still one of the victims of Hurricane Matthew. I do have a roof over my head, but I do not have a home. As the actors once said, there's no place like home. The home that I was raised up in was flooded. We had over 3 feet of water inside of my home off of 117. Since being in a FEMA trailer once a month, I call them FEMA social worker, they come out, they check the barcode on the trailer to make sure that I haven't switched out their trailer for a duplicate one that looks just like it, which I do not mind because, again, it's a roof over my family home, which includes my mother, who is up in age, 72, no offense to anyone in their 70s, and my husband, which is a disabled vet, who next month will be going back in for his 4th spinal fusion. On December the 15th, I've had the honor and privilege of speaking down at the General Assembly, telling my story. When I told them that I was homeless, they came up to me and said, "Well, you don't look like you're homeless." I said, "Okay, well, how does one look like they're homeless?" Because I didn't come in scroungy clothes or with an aroma. I'm still homeless. I have no place that I can call home. I am asking, as Mr. Daltrey said, about the guidelines. My mother may be on the cusp of not qualifying because she worked all of her life, you know? So her pension from Verizon may kick her out of that low income to medium guideline, which is heartening, you know, because we went through it in '99, not as bad, but now with Matthew, our home is completely gutted. I sit on my property every day and look at the home that I once grew up in, which is beginning to some extent begin to call, you know, depression. But because I'm shouldering all of this for my mom and my husband, I have to kind of put my emotions on the back burner to be there for them. So with that being said, I'm asking that the $25 million is approved, whatever needs to be done by the commissioners, because minimum, after 8+ months of looking for a modular home, we're looking at $170,000. After the expense of getting an elevation flood certificate, we still need to raise our land up, our home up, or bring in a new home and raise that up. So again, if anybody, does anyone have any questions? Or, you know,
Question?
I know a lot about FEMA on the books of it. I have several books that
I was just gonna say it's part of the
the
process with the public hearing, and we will have a motion after this that we will vote on to move forward with this process, just to let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. I come before you, my name is DJ Coles with the 4-Day Movement Incorporated. We're a 501c3 nonprofit headquartered here in Goldsboro, North Carolina, and I'm glad to come before you once again. I thank you very much for allowing the public to provide input on this grant, or this CDBG funding. 4-Day Movement has been an advocate in the community. We've impacted at this point 12 families that were Hurricane Matthew survivors, and I use the word survivors. People that lost their homes, we housed 3 of them in a house that we have here in Wayne County. And I recently just visited one who is 85 years old. She lives at the Holiday Inn Express, and she's been there for 5 months. And we go and check on her just about every other week just to make sure she's okay. The one thing she told me is that she's very excited that she has a breakfast every day and that churches and us bring her meals. And that's right here at Holiday Inn Express, beautiful 85-year-old female. The impacts we are still seeing, and part of this CDBG grant, I hope 4-Day Movement can be a part of this process. We're finding that it's far more than just putting people in lodging. It's helping heal the totality of the person because there's trauma involved. So the case management and care management of each and every one of these people is very vital. And that's where we have found our part. We have helped folks with gas cards. People didn't think that they needed gas just to get back and forth to work. We've helped with food cards and definitely with the lodging portion of that. 12 families, 27 total people that we have helped, and that is including children here in Wayne County. And that may not seem like monumental numbers. However, every one of those 12 families and 27 people, we've addressed not only their physical needs, but we've addressed their emotional needs and their spiritual needs to the best of our ability as a young nonprofit here in the city. So with the CDBG grant, I heard all the different things that they are going to fund, but the one piece that we can't forget is the person. We can put them in a house, we can put them in a building, we can put them in a trailer, but it's the people and them trying to get back on their feet and trying to get to work. So 4-Day Movement wants to be a part of that management piece. And I look forward to doing that with the help of our commissioners and with the other organizations, because we have not done it by ourselves. We've done that with the help of local entities such as Walmart and the UPS store. And we have another storm coming soon. So we're just ahead of what potentially could happen again. And we're going to be a part of the solution here in Wayne County. Are there any questions?
Questions?
Mr. Chairman. The one word I think that I heard you say, Justin, you said you want to be a part of the management piece. You want to elaborate on what you mean by the management piece as it relates to what you've done already and what you intend to do?
That's a very good question. When I say the management piece, it's the follow-up. A lot of people would just get something and then that family has to go and fend for themselves. And fend for themselves in the middle of some mental illness or in the middle of just they don't know what to do. They have to go back to work if they lost their jobs. So we want to follow the family. With 4-Day Movement, we follow the family after 4 days, after 14 days, after 44 days, and after 4 months. So the management piece is the continuity and the sustainability of these families once they get what is made available to them.
And none of us have the answer to the question that is lingering with me, but you're looking forward to helping them to gain whatever assets that would be appropriate, but an organization such as yours expects to get what percent, or where does your remuneration come, and how do you calculate that?
That's to be negotiated and to be discussed.
You mean with the families?
No, sir, with the funder.
With the lending, with the funding agent?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good question. Thank you.
What else?
Thank you
Thanks,
very
sir.
much. Sure.
Brent Collins, 123 Hood Drive in Grantham. I'm a public speaking rookie, so you'll have to bear with me. Not too long after the storm, we were hurried over to the FEMA makeshift office. And while we were doing our paperwork, we were given 2 sheets of paper. One was where we had to decide where we wanted to either take the buyout or to elevate. Before we signed the paper, my wife and I discussed it and said the only way we'd go back to our house, and some of you were actually out there to visit, and I appreciate that. But before we were able to decide, my wife and I spoke, and we said we would not go back unless we knew that we could elevate our home. And that's what we decided to do. We filled out our paperwork with FEMA. We submitted it under the impression, under the guise that our home would be elevated. Since then, our house is nearing completion. They've just roughed in the sheetrock. We've changed the floor plan. Everything looks beautiful, a nice family home. And I do apologize for those that are still homeless. My heart goes out to you, I really do. And I'm glad that this program is taking care of those that are less fortunate. But my issue is everything that we've heard, everything that's come down from FEMA, from the county, we were always under the impression that our home was going to be elevated, that we were going to be able to get some type of assistance to elevate our home. Every time a pot of money drops, whether it be from the government, the federal government, these state funds or federal funds, it seems like for whatever reason we don't make the cutoff. We don't, either our home is already, which it flooded back in '99 as well with a previous owner. We never make the cutoff for whatever reason. And so now we're in a home that's almost completed, our dream home, which we plan to stay and raise our 4 kids. But now we're sitting on pins and needles waiting for the next storm to hit, and we're waiting to lose everything again. My question is, and I don't know if it can be answered here, but we have neighbors who have received the buyout, but yet we're still not approved for elevation. We are a single income family. I do work on base. I'm a firefighter, EMT on base, so I do have a good job, but at times we do live paycheck to paycheck. And we come home and we have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for dinner, and I'm okay with that. That's what we chose. That's what we decided to do so that my wife could be home with our children to homeschool. But it seems that every pot of money that drops, it's always for those that are poverty stricken, and we should take care of our poor. I absolutely agree with that. But for those of us that obviously are healthy enough to work and do have jobs, what about us? I can't afford the $40,000 or $60,000 or however much it's going to be to elevate my home. And so now, as we're living in our beautiful home now, we're still waiting for the next flood to hit. And supposedly, according to the county maps, we're not in the flood zone, but now our house is flooded twice now. And again, I know some of you actually came out and put eyes on the house. I appreciate any kind of assistance that we can receive. I want to stay in Wayne County, and I'm sure you would love my tax dollars and my votes, so I'm sure you'd love for me to stay in Wayne County as well. But I do ask you to somehow please consider the fact that there are families out there that, yes, they do make money, they are able to fend for themselves, but they still need assistance as well. So it seems like we've been kind of misled, thinking that our house was going to be elevated, and we're not approved. So if any help can be given, that it would be assisted. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Before we leave, I'll ask a question.
Before you leave, I want to ask you a question.
When you,
I've only got, I'm sorry.
I don't think they'll count, but I'm gonna ask you before we leave.
That doesn't count.
They don't put him on the clock.
If I can gather what you said correctly, you went down and filled the paperwork out assuming that you would fall into the elevation part. And I guess my question is, it sounds like that work has been done.
No, sir.
It's not.
No, that the home, and we're not the only ones in the neighborhood that are waiting for elevation. Mr. Hardison, Freeman Hardison, was under the impression that his home was going to be elevated as well. But no, we were told, you know what, go ahead, start the rebuild. Extra money is going to come down. The ICC money will come down. That'll help. And so we started rebuilding. The ICC money dropped. We were already above, according to county maps, we were already above that required flood level. And so, sorry, you're not approved for the ICC.
So in other words, you've done some work to it, but not the elevation part.
No, sir, because that is an additional $60,000, which we don't have. Originally, we did have flood insurance. We paid for $250,000 in flood insurance. They gave us $220,000 because the adjuster was under the impression that we would get $30,000 for the ICC to elevate our home. When they came out to do the elevation plan, they found out that, according to the county, we were already high enough and that we didn't need to be elevated, which doesn't make sense because our home was under 6 feet of water. And so we were not able to get our full $250,000 in insurance money. So trust me, it's a long process. But other pots of money have dropped, and we still are not, for whatever reason, we're not approved, whether because I have a job and it's sad.
Also, the work that you've done on your house is from the insurance dollars.
It's
not
from the insurance money,
not-
yes, sir.
okay.
Yep. Are there any other questions? Mr. Bell's already asleep, so I guess my time's.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I mean, this is a perfect example, and this is what I don't understand about the process. And is, this gentleman has got a job, he's got an income, and being said no to. That's the part I don't understand. I just don't, and I know it's the government regulations, but I just don't understand why a person that draws a paycheck and a person that doesn't draw a paycheck, if they were flooded and lost everything, what's the difference? I mean, that's the part I don't understand.
It's called a working.
Thank you.
My question.
Yeah, I think we need to make a couple of comments on that if we could.
Let's remember two different grant programs. One's a hazard mitigation grant program, one's a CDBG DR program. The CDBG DR is an income-based program. The hazard mitigation grant program is not. The county applied for $35 million in hazard mitigation grant funds. It was awarded $9 million out of the $35 million. Obviously, that's a shortfall of quite a bit. No elevation projects were funded at all. And we still have lots of acquisition projects that were not funded as well. We funded approximately 88 properties so far.
Out of how many?
Out of 321, something like that, total.
So what, just to reiterate, the hazard mitigation money comes from FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They're the ones doing both the buyout and the elevation program. And they have not provided adequate funding to North Carolina. We are not the only county in this situation. In meetings we've had with state officials, we need about $200 million more in the state of North Carolina to buy out all of these properties and to do these elevations. And FEMA has not provided that. So that's where we're at. But to reiterate what Chip's saying, the FEMA money is not tied to income. It's tied to what the damages were and that sort of thing. But we have not received, the state of North Carolina has not received adequate money to buy out all the people who would qualify or to pay for elevations of the people who would qualify. And they're taking them in a specific order. And the first order is if you're in the 100-year flood. So, and your home owner occupied. But there's no income requirement on the FEMA money. I want to be clear about that. There is an income requirement on this, for most of this CDBG money. A certain percentage of it has to go to low and moderate income folks. Community development block grant money, even when it's not this special program, typically goes to low and moderate income people. And they're routing this money through HUD, which is where the CDBG money comes from.
But just imagine here what we just heard. This family was flooded out. They go to FEMA. FEMA leads them to believe that they will in fact qualify for an elevation. They take their insurance proceeds, rather than going and buying another property and building another house, they renovate. In fact, was encouraged to renovate that home. They did so, but they still don't have the dollars to elevate. Secondly, the insurance, the flood insurance, a division of the United States government basically reduced their claim by $30,000, saying, well, you're going to have an elevation grant. Where do these folks go to get someone to either decide that they in fact are going to be elevated or wait for the next flood? Because they're not even in a flood zone. They're not designated in a flood area. So from my understanding, there was a limitation to elevate, if there is funds available in the future, that you would actually have to be in a 100-year floodplain. If they're not in there, then they're not gonna qualify for the next dollars that come out. FEMA's misleading people is what I'm saying. That's misleading.
Correct. In my opinion, they are.
They are.
And when we have a $35 million need and you give us $9 million, you can only do so much. And there's lots of cases like this. That's not the only one.
It's a again, across the state of North Carolina, it's a $200 million problem.
That's fine, but someone should have said to that couple, or that family, listen, you do take a risk here if you in fact are going to rebuild your property. You do take a risk of whether or not you're going to get the grant. Now, I don't think they ever told you that, did they? They led you to believe all along you were going to get the grant. In fact, they reduced the claim by the amount. I mean, do they go back and get their 30 grand back if they don't elevate it?
We tried, but the insurance company said no.
No. Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
I have a quick question. Did you say that the county has you not in the floodplain? Is that correct?
Yeah, Chip would be able to, he would be able to answer
Chip.
that question, but there's
They are
multiple
in,
maps.
they are in the floodplain. Their elevation certificate from their engineer showed that they met the regulatory requirements for the finished floor elevation.
What that makes sense here is whether your home was rebuilt and redone by insurance money or FEMA money, it doesn't matter.
It's one of the same.
Why would not the elevation be a priority rather than rebuilding his home and leaving it down to be flooded again, which is cheaper to the taxpayer? Which is cheaper? Would not be better? And here's another issue that I have. After the home is rebuilt and redone and livable, the money comes 2 or 3 months down the road for elevation. It costs more to elevate a home after it's built than it does to do it while it's being built. This is money coming out of the taxpayer's pocket. No, any way you look at it, it's taxpayer money. And I have a problem with the process not being in the most cost-effective manner, is what I'm saying. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
About, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, Congressman Weiser was down, and Mr. Gurley and Mr. Aycock and I were present, and I was there early enough to have a one-on-one with him, and he talked with them as well. And these were the same questions I was asking him, because Freeman Harrison had called me, and Eric said he'd gotten his letter. I don't understand it either. And I'm just kind of quoting, paraphrasing what Congressman Weiser told me. He said that after Superstorm Sandy, FEMA no longer just has a blank check. They only allow so much money. He said they got the money, but what you have to do is when you only got 9 million out of 35, you have to go back. The state has to go back and say these are unmet needs, and you have to reapply. So it's not that the money's not there; it's just the process is becoming a little bit more bureaucratic
Down the road.
Yeah, and of course, there's a lot of finger pointing on whose fault that is and why it took so long to get it done. But, and of course, I don't know how Harvey's going to impact those dollars too, but that's the process he described to me. Is that correct, Mr. Harris?
It is.
It is. Okay. And if y'all heard anything different.
That's what I heard.
I just wanted to share it with everybody out there because, believe me, we're concerned too. I mean, you know, we went right to the congressman about it, but.
The governor still has something to do as well.
Yeah.
The state of North Carolina was very slow in applying for what had to be done.
I don't think requests get up there in D.C. till about May or early June. Is that correct? Is that what he said?
Yes, June.
I think you have some more.
Could put fuel on the fire just to let y'all know that.
Ray Urban with Long-Term Recovery Group. Just wanted to give you a little bit of an update. We have made an offer to a director. She'll be a part-time person, and she'll be managing the day-to-day operations for the Long-Term Recovery Group. Also something, when I've been here in the past, or Barbara's been here in the past, one thing I don't think we have mentioned is one of our functions is to coordinate volunteers to come in from out of state to work on folks' homes. And they'll typically stay at a local church. The North Carolina Baptist men, for example, are staying at Pine View Baptist Church up at Belfast. And these volunteers come in and they provide free labor. So $25 million sounds like a lot of money, but 220 homes doesn't sound like a lot of homes. And you had 6,700 people in Wayne County to register with FEMA. So by utilizing the volunteers to actually do the construction work and repairs, you can spread that $25 million over more people. So that's one thing the long-term recovery group does do is coordinate with organizations out of state that are willing to come to Wayne County and actually be on the ground doing construction in people's homes. And the other thing I wanted to mention to you is the long-term recovery group has its first unmet needs committee at 1 o'clock today, where some of the Lutheran Service Carolinas case managers will be bringing cases where we'll see if we can help those folks with some of the grant funds we have received. And then we have a routine meeting at 3 o'clock this afternoon at the Salvation Army. And I'll challenge you, if you're truly as interested as you just say you were, you'll come to that meeting. It's been pretty disappointing that nobody from the county commissioners has been to the long-term recovery group meetings. I don't think you understand what we do. I don't think you understand our function. And so I'm asking you to put your money where your mouth is. Come to the meeting. It's at 3 o'clock at the Salvation Army.
Can I make a comment, Mr. Page? I'd be glad to share my calendar with anybody in the county that wants to look at it. It's not that we don't want to participate. We can't be in but one place at one time. And all of us, everybody on this board, has something to do just about 7 days a week. We don't work from 8 to 5. And I really don't appreciate saying that we hadn't stepped up to the plate when I know we have. Thank you.
I second that, Mr. Haycock.
I hope we're through by 3 today. I don't even know if we will be. Anyone else?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ronald Petty Sr., and I live at 312 Brentwood Drive, Dudley, North Carolina, 28333. And I'm here to kind of piggyback on what the gentleman said a few minutes ago concerning what FEMA have said that you could do or that they would do, and if you would continue on with what you are doing, and that way they would look back on it. And I very strictly agree with, I say strictly, but I adamantly agree with what you said about taxpayers throwing money in the air, to my notion. And you didn't mean to say it that way, but this is what I partake of it. They had asked me to redo my house to get it livable. In order to get it livable, I had to go in and cut my walls out and do what I need to do, and work with the inspectors, and work with Mr. Chip and the rest of them in order to get this squared away. And they're familiar with me on this. They was kind enough to give me permit to do this work. I'm a transplant recipient. I'm not supposed to be in mold and mildew, etc. I'm taking high-risk medication. But I had to do this because I had to send everything that I got from insurance. I had to send it to SBA because I had a loan with them since 1999 from Floyd. So with that in mind, I had to go through, every time that I get a check, I have to send it to them. They would decide they're going to send it back to me or whatever. Sometime it'd be a week, sometime it'd be 2 weeks or whatever. They slowed the process down, and after all said and done, it slowed me down. My wife and I both have issues. I'm 73 years old, and I'm still trying to do work. Matter of fact, I worked at Lowe's up until the time I had the same day that I had the transplant. I worked at Lowe's with them. What I'm trying to say is, with the idea on having the word from FEMA that they will buy you out, etc. You work on your house, then you find out all the work that you've done, you will not be able to get anything from it simply because you're not going to get the money for the buyout. Okay? I goes and asked the question here when I spoke with Mr. Chip Crumpton, and I spoke with Mr. Danny Price. All of you familiar with them. I'm trying to get a grant whereas I can dig the ditch out because the ditch is a blue line ditch and they won't let me do it where I am, where it is right now. But the only thing I'm asking right now is to try to procure some money where I can dig that ditch out. And I've already talked to Ms. Samantha with the Corps Engineer, and she suggested me talk with Mr. Anthony Scarborough at the NC Division of Coastal Management. I'm supposed to meet with him the 14th, but I don't know what to tell him. I don't know what procedure that I need to go through in order to continue on with this. So what I'm at loss right now, losing time, etc., I don't know what to do. So what I'm doing is asking y'all if I can get some information to guide me on what can I do in order to get a loan or grant, or what do I need to do in order to dig this ditch out. I would maintain it. I am capable of doing it, working with that. So what I'm trying to do is to work with the ditch, to clean it out and keep it maintained. And I've also talked with Ms. Ashley Smith, and she had suggested to talk with somebody that can guide me in the way that I need to go. So what I'm doing is putting myself on y'all, for y'all to give me some help on trying it. It's not just for myself and my wife, but it's all for the community that got flooded in Rollingwood. So if any questions, I would be glad to answer whatever I can.
Thank you, sir.
And I sure appreciate y'all giving me the air.
Good morning, Councilman. My name is Charles Wright, and what I'm learning when I come to this hearings, that we've had a lot of unmet needs, unmet questions dating back to the FEMA sign-up. And what I'm hoping the city and the county will understand is they put a lot of burden on just Mr. Crumpler. I think I've heard his name about 12 times. And he's been tasked to look at other things. Mr. Crumpler's been a busy man, internet out in the county. And I think, in all fairness, it's a time that I think, before I even get to my comments about this grant, that we look at hiring someone from the county or joint county and city who can be a case manager that's paid by the city and county to follow these cases. Because there's things that I'm hearing brought up just as the average Joe that I could have answered myself had I been in a position and somebody say, hey, if you get $30,000 for a lift, go out and challenge your insurance company and say, hey, I got 3 estimates, 40, 50, 60. You only giving me 30. I want 50. I want 60. So there's ways to work with it. But like Commissioner Cromartie says, he doesn't have time to read 500 pages or 100 pages. He wants the short version. But a lot of times the questions and to help people requires you reading that 500 pages or that 100 pages, because it's very hard to navigate. And I hear what you're saying as far as grants and who gets what. but there was enough money to help a lot of people. But I would say it was very misleading when you went into the city and areas around the county and everybody, because they told me the same thing. Sign here and get a buyout. Advertising buyout for sale today. Sign here and get a buyout or get a lift. And something told me in my mind, I said, I better go and do some research and see how many states and how many counties and how many people have signed up for buyouts and heard the calling like we did here, and how many was ever approved. And somewhere it was somewhere between 25% and a high of like 40%. So that told me half of the people that had signed up with Mr. Crumpler for the county buyout would probably never be approved, but we took their applications nevertheless. So that's a realization that we need to let people know, hey, this only is a possibility. Don't rely on it. If it comes, look at it as a gift. But that's all I want to say as far as moving forward with this grant. I think we need to have a full-time face, because this is a lot of money we got coming, $25 million. A lot of the home repairs is going to require that some people have already went through another grant that's available called the North Carolina Housing Finance Grant that's been available since January the 1st. And it's just appearing on your Wayne County website dated 3/14. But a part of what's going to happen, I'm scared of, is when people go and apply for this new grant, once it gets here, one of the questions is going to be, well, have you applied for this North Carolina Housing Finance Grant to help fix your house? And someone's going to say, oh, no, we didn't know anything about it. Well, go back here. So I'm kind of concerned that we need to do, and I'm a part of the county, I'm a part of the city as well. But getting to my questions, because it was advertised that you can come with questions, and I don't want to be misled that I'm just standing up here and giving you my opinions. But I'm coming with factual questions that I would hope bring out factual responses. Number one, could grant package...
Mr. Wright, being fair to everybody else, we're only allowing 4 minutes today.
Well, sir, there again, where's the attorney? I was told in a public meeting there is no limit, because it's supposed to be a public meeting on a hearing on public funds. So it's not commissioner's business as usual, 4 minutes. But I'm prepared.
The board may limit.
I'm prepared to call the state attorney on that matter. Because you can't just say, oh, it's a public hearing, come and hear what you got to say, but only if you can say it in 4 minutes. What you're hearing today is these people have problems that can't be addressed with just hearing something in a little small snippet. And this grant, like I said, this grant is 100 pages long. It's 100 pages from Department of Commerce. So it's inconceivable that if somebody has questions.
The board has the right to limit the time on any public hearing that is called. And you've limited this one to 4 minutes a person.
Well, I still have questions I'd like to be addressed. So you want to arrest me? Arrest me. But I'm coming on behalf of asking legitimate questions, and all it should take is a yes or no. And if you don't want to hear me, you want to push me out, I've asked legitimate questions. Thank you. You want to put cuffs on? Can I get my lawyer?
Does anyone else want to speak today? Mr. Parker, do we need to close the public hearing before we make the vote?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this public hearing is closed. All right, second part of this is we need a motion to approve the authorization to submit over an application to the Community Development Block Grant and disaster recovery funds. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any additional discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I believe, Chip, you wanted to make a couple of amendments to the application.
Do you want to go over those, David? Got your list.
resolution that you have has still has the same breakdown in terms of Wayne County, City of Goldsboro, Mount Olive that we started with. The only change that was made in the budget was with the direction of the state. We had a category for small business loans, which of course the state's now going to manage exclusively. It's not going to go through the county. So the small business loan portion that we had was simply put back up into housing, which of course is our primary need. The second change that the state made was the guidelines state there's money for planning. They stated they're not going to provide planning money for the 4 impacted counties. And so the planning money simply went back up into the construction-related line items that we were going to use the planning funds for. And so now it'll have to be part of the construction line items. It did not change any of the division between the county, the city, and Mount Olive. Each budget stayed the same. It's just that the planning funds went into their construction line item, whether it was for the storm drainage work for the city of Goldsboro or Harbor Center for Mount Olive, and of course for the county, the generators and that sort of thing. So we made those changes from the time the proposal was submitted.
What do you mean by motion?
I amend the motion for changes with the approval of Mr. Crumpler and Mr. Parker.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any additional discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Ms. Edwards, I think we're done with you.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to come here today and share with you that September is Senior Center Month. And with your permission, I would like to read the proclamation for Senior Center Month and then have the board to accept. Whereas older Americans are significant members of our society, investing their wisdom and experience to help enrich and better the lives of younger generations. And whereas the Wayne County Peggy M. Seeger Senior Center has acted as a catalyst for mobilizing the creativity, energy, vitality, and commitment of older residents of Wayne County. And whereas through a wide array of services, programs, and activities, senior centers empower older citizens of Wayne County, North Carolina, to contribute to their own health and well-being and the health and well-being of their fellow citizens of all ages. And whereas the Wayne County Senior Center affirms the dignity, self-worth, and independence of older persons by facilitating their decision and actions, tapping their experiences, skills, and knowledge, and enabling their continued contributions to the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Wayne County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the month of September 2017 as Senior Center Month, and calls upon all citizens to recognize the special contributions of the Wayne County Peggy M. Seeger Senior Center participants and the special efforts of the staff and volunteers who work every day to enhance the well-being of the older citizens of our community. Adopted this 5th day of September 2017.
Any questions? I have, we got any special things going on this month?
We do, and I'd like to share
I know you want
this.
to talk about it, I know you do. So.
I'll keep it short, I have to read.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you want?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, okay. This month, we are celebrating Senior Center Month, and we do have special activities and events. The first one on September the 13th at 9 a.m. We will be having breakfast with the director, and this is just an opportunity for seniors to give input about the Senior Center and to sit down and share with me what's on their mind. And this is open to Wayne County seniors 60 and older. And then on September the 18th at 5 p.m., we're having a hot dog social to celebrate Senior Center Month. And after the meal, we have bingo. So we ask if you'd like to stay to enjoy that Monday night bingo, and that begins at 6 o'clock. And that's open for seniors that are members of the Senior Center. And then on September the 20th, from 9 a.m. until 11 a.m., we're having our first Senior Resource Fair. and it's sponsored by the Office of U.S. Congressman David Rouser and the Peggy Seeger Senior Center. And some of the presenters will speak on the following. We have a lot of information to offer. Our health department, they're going to talk about how to maintain good health in retirement. We have North Carolina Legal Aid. They'll discuss wills, bills, and other legal matters. North Carolina Department of Insurance, SHIP, what are we and what can we do for you? And that's senior health insurance, Medicare. We have Social Security. Their topic will be My Social Security with You Through Life's Journey, Securing Today and Tomorrow. And then we have the Sheriff's Department to discuss exploitation, fraud, and scams. And there'll be many more agencies that'll have tables where you can access them to find out what resources are available for our seniors and the caregivers in Wayne County. And it's a great opportunity for you to access those resources. So it's open to the community, to the public, all those that would like to attend.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you ever see any of these senior citizens patronizing the senior center over there?
I know, I'll sign y'all up anytime, I promise, and it doesn't cost anything. But no, I don't see them as often as I'd like, but I think they're afraid to call themselves older adults, is that correct?
Well, actually, I thought you had to be 70 before you became a senior.
Well, we have young seniors that are very active and can, I tell you, put me to shame. And I think you should come and experience the Senior Center. It's a wonderful place. It's not what you think it is. It's a great place.
Mr. Aycock may have been an answer a while ago when he said.
Would you like to see our calendar?
Your schedule? Well, we're open a lot of hours, 6 days a week. So you can work it in there somewhere, but we just know the door's always open to you, and we'd love to have you there. And we do realize you're busy, but thank you for your support of the Senior Center. We appreciate it.
One more thing. We don't want to try to fix something that ain't broke.
That's right. Well, you see our parking lot's full, and, but we'd love to have you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Before I make a motion to approve this proclamation, I was at the most recent meeting with the seniors, and I did make the comment that once I became a senior citizen, I was certainly going to come down and participate. And I say that jokingly because I was probably at least the age or older than the rest of the folks sitting around the table with me. And certainly, when you look at the color of my hair matched any senior citizen that was in the building. Let me say this to you. While I do encourage you all to come, don't think that you need to come to fill out the usage, because it is highly used. I mean, and our seniors that are down there using that building, they really appreciate it, and they enjoy it, and it's well used, because our director has to do a lot of negotiations to make sure that everyone gets their fair share of time. So believe me, guys, we'll start going when we get a little bit more time, maybe in our schedule. But the public is really making good use of this, Ms. Edwards. But having said that, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the proclamation for the senior citizen, Senior Center Month and update for senior citizens as it's written in the statement.
We have a motion for any additional discussion. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
And just to say this, we are turning away people under the age of 60 that want to join and out of the county. So people are trying to come in. We have to card them. So it's a privilege to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I believe our health department director is up next.
Has he got 4 minutes?
Yeah, 2.
It's got 2 minutes.
Oh, my
Good morning,
God.
David Madden, 301 North Herman Street. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. I assure you I will make this as short as you allow me to. It is required each year for the Health Department to present to the Board of Commissioners our Child Fatality Prevention Annual Report. I believe you have been submitted that. This little document right here. I got pulled up the wrong document. This is what the report looks like. Each year, As you, some of you know, and probably all of you know, we're required to review all child deaths in Wayne County that occur from age birth to 17. And as part of that team, we do it in a confidential manner. By law, we have access to all records related to that child's death, regardless of where those records were generated. And we review those cases to see what the occurrence of the death was, and we evaluate it as a team to see if there's systematic issues within the process that led to that child's death. We don't look at individual people. We don't have any contact with immediate family, but we do have contact with all agencies that may have had contact with the child, schools, hospitals, wellness facilities, teachers, etc. Last year, we had 20 deaths, child deaths in Wayne County. I'm sorry, let me back up, in 2015, because this is a report in 2016, and we review the cases a year after they occur. So that's why it's kind of a staggered date. But for the last year's review, we reviewed 20 cases of deaths that occurred in 2015. For those deaths, 12 of those were related to birth defects or perinatal conditions. One of those was related to a homicide. Two of those related to motor vehicle accidents. There was a question about that death based on the cause of death as issued by the medical examiner report. And if you remember one of my reports last year, that's something our team constantly has a little bit of a challenge with, on how the ME's report designates the cause of death. We had 5 of those that were tied to illness, and that was the 20. Of those, the age, we had 13 of those were under age 1 year old. One of those was aged between 1 and 4. One of those children were aged between 5 and 9. One of those was aged between 10 and 14, and 4 of those children were aged 15 to 17. As far as what we see in child deaths related to Wayne County from cause of death, the predominant cause is usually birth defects or perinatal conditions. That's not uncommon across the state, not uncommon across the nation. That is the highest typical cause of death for children. There's nothing that we see typically that's showing a trend or really a need for concern besides the continued education and when it comes to perinatal conditions, to help mothers have good care during pregnancy and during that first year of childbirth, to make sure that they have healthy homes and the child is being cared for with good support. Those are programs that we continue to implement. And I present to you this report, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions? I guess you did just a great job of explaining it, so we don't have any.
That was my intent.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, I guess the next thing that we've got coming up is sort of a follow-up what we did before. Is that correct, Mr. Wood?
Yes, that's right. We're asking you to authorize us to do an RFQ or RFP, depending on what we find out from the state, for the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program. This would be the person that would administer that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I so move.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. This stuff. And Mr. Wade? Next is the Maxwell Center Immersion Video Room proposal. And I guess you brought him in to be our speaker.
Right.
How's everyone today?
Pretty good.
Thank you. By the way, I like your shirt.
I started to ask, are you going to be marketing those shirts?
Yeah, I'd like one with a pocket on it too, please.
Thank you.
As everyone knows, the Maxwell Regional Agricultural and Convention Center has several different things that we need to do as we move forward and we open. And one of those things is to help the community with all of the agricultural folks who have offices out there. They'll continue to do what they do with folks. Then we have the side where we have all the rental rooms so that we can take care of the needs of the community when they need a space to have some type of event. And one of the things that we need to do and was in the mind of the agricultural committee when they put all of this together was to educate people. And one of the ways that we feel we can do some continuing education about history of the county, history of the area, about agriculture and different agricultural aspects that, you know, kids and adults who may not be familiar with it can come in and learn. And so we've sort of put together a showpiece for the building that's called an immersion room. It's a large screen display so that when folks come in, they'll have the ability to go up to a touchscreen pad and choose one of dozens of videos to watch on this screen. The screen's about 7.5 feet tall and curves around a room so that when you're watching the video, you actually feel like you're immersed in the picture. And as we move forward, we can actually film videos in such a manner that it makes you feel like you are in the video. And we feel this would be a great way to educate folks about things that they may not know about agriculture, that they may not know about the history of the area and the county. And there is also a way to monetize all of this also with some sponsorship commercials that play before or after the videos, or using the video screen for certain shows that might come in and rent the building, such as a trade show, and perhaps some of their exhibitors would want to put something on the board. So basically, to have this immersion room that we do consider to be a showpiece, we're asking for the you're okay to spend basically $130,000 to build this room, or to build everything in the room. The room is already there right off the lobby of the Maxwell Center. And I guess that's pretty much everything I need to say about it, unless you have any questions.
Questions?
No, I'd just like to make a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
I think this is great. I have 3 grandsons that live in Greensboro. Their dad understands things like this because he was raised on the farm. But these 3 young men live virtually downtown Greensboro. They don't have a clue. And there's so many other kids and grown-ups that don't. And my middle grandson had the opportunity to come spend a week with me this summer, and one of the local farmers was picking wheat. And I asked him, I said, well, can my grandson ride around up to with you? And he did. And when Tate got out of the combine, I asked him, I said, what do you think of this? What do you think of what you just did? And he said, Pa, this is the most awesome thing I've ever done. And virtually, what this is going to do is what he saw.
Exactly.
And but there's so many kids and adults that don't have the opportunity that he had. But they can go here and they can have that opportunity.
Exactly.
So
One of the things I've said to some folks is we can do some videos, and there are plans to do some videos, for example, where someone is riding in the combine or on the tractor with the camera, so that when people watch the video, because the screen is so large and sort of curved around you, you feel like you're right there in the action.
I mean, because there's, I asked one of my granddaughters one time when she's much smaller than she is now, I said, do you know where milk comes from? She said, Walmart. I mean, really, we need to educate our people where their food comes from.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bates.
You might mention that the Ag Committee took a look at this.
They did, yes. The Ag Committee, we had a meeting a week ago Friday, and we showed this to them, explained what we wanted to do. We also did a tour of the building with them, and they were unanimously behind this, all the ones that were there, because they're, again, one of the prime aspects of this building is to provide education about agriculture. And so, there's all different aspects of this building. There's the marketing and the selling of the space for wedding receptions and things that have absolutely nothing to do with agriculture. And then there's the meetings and the banquets and stuff that are tied into the various agricultural associations and groups. But this is something that will be there for anyone who walks into the building. So if someone comes out just to see the building, if they stop by to talk to us about a room for something that's very non-agriculture, they can still step up and do this, so we can educate people, even when they don't realize that they're being educated.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I was just sitting here brainstorming. I'm from the manufacturing side. You could actually take this system and put a high school student or anyone in grade school, you could put a CNC lathe on there, for example, and they could actually feel like that they're operating that machine to a certain degree. They could be right there. This is what's missing in our county and in our education system, is the fact that a lot of these kids, as you know, are not exposed to what the trades offer, like welding, but I happen to be in machining. I can see this as a huge advantage on just having a student day.
Yes.
And let these kids come in and see robot welders, these kind of things, and just do a complete presentation as to, and give these kids something to really look at. It's good to go on site, but my goodness, you can cover so much here. You can cover 15 or 20 different trades.
Absolutely.
That Wayne community offers. So I'm sitting here brainstorming, I said, my gracious, if you can do that with a combine, you can certainly do it with industrial equipment.
Absolutely, and the whole educational aspect of it, I think, just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And one of the things that will happen is, this is there in the room right off the lobby all the time.
Yeah.
And they can choose which video they want to watch, so it's not just the same video playing over and over. Whatever they have an interest in, they can watch. But some of the people who have called me about using the rooms at the facility are groups that deal with kids, whether they be elementary, high school, or whatever. So we're gonna have some things coming in to use the actual rental space that are dealing with kids. So this is in the lobby. So even though they're not coming there to be educated about Wayne County and the companies and industries and agriculture of Wayne County, they're coming in, and something this high-tech, kids are gonna play with regardless. And so we're gonna educate them whether they see it coming or not.
But a lot of those videos already exist.
I know that there are some videos that, I believe it's the museum has.
Museum has
Some
also.
historical videos.
And the library.
The Cooperative Extension Service also has some, but we want to tailor these a lot to Wayne County. And we've got the capability with our public affairs staff.
Great. Anyone else? Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you, Mr.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
And Clerk, I'm gonna change a little bit since tourism director's here. I was gonna go ahead and let her come on up. Since she's been waiting patiently, and I know she needs to get back to work. And then we'll show the video after that. Hey, good morning. Glad to have you.
How are y'all doing? Good. Well, thanks for inviting me to come in and speak with y'all today. I had shared this at the Tourism TDA board meeting last Wednesday about the visitor spending impact for 2016. They released their numbers on August 15th last month. And I'm not sure if you have it printed out in front of you or not, but there was a press release that went out. I think she's passing out. Thank you. But Wayne County saw a 3.9% increase in visitor spending. The Visit NC office reported that visitors spent $162 million in 2016 here in Wayne County alone. So the state in itself saw about a 5% increase. So they, on average, had about $1.2 billion in visitor spending in the state. But just here in our county, we secured $162 million worth of spending. Those 26 numbers are from January 1 of 2016 to December 31 of 2016, so it doesn't account for air show that just happened in May this year. It doesn't go off of our fiscal year. I guess some of the questions people are like, how and why do these numbers go up? What do people come to Wayne County for? And some of the numbers that have caused this increase in 2016 are related a lot to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. They saw a 33% increase from 2015 to 2016 in local lodging expenditures just in our hotels. And that's from the 9/16 reserve weekends all the way to special occasions like B course graduations, contractors coming into work on runway expansions, projects of that nature. Also, some of our industries are causing some of that increase, such as Duke Energy. Sporting events in our surrounding counties have actually caused an increase in our hotel stays on the weekends. So Castle is this soccer organization that's based out of Raleigh, but they host these satellite tournaments in Wilson, Rocky Mount, and they actually overflow hotel night stays here in Wayne County. So they commute 40 minutes just to go to play in their sports complex. So when our sports complex opens, I see that our weekend business will continue to increase. So 2017 will also be pretty interesting to see what increase we see there for visitor spending. And also, unfortunately, although Hurricane Matthew caused a lot of damage to our area and to our residents, and that did provide a lot of increase in visitor spending for when FEMA, American Red Cross, and contractors for Duke Energy came and stayed the night, and displaced residents also stayed in the hotels. So that caused an uptick in the occupancy tax revenue as well and visitor spending. But yeah, we're on trend. We've continued to see an increase in visitor spending for the last 5 years. So we're on a record-breaking streak year over year. We continue to beat last year's numbers. And I can't take all the credit since I just started last October, but I hope that we can continue contributing and pulling visitors to Wayne County. But it was pretty interesting, the conversation you were just having before I stepped up to speak about just how important it is to educate our generation today on agribusiness and just knowing where our food comes from. I would say agritourism is also one of the key elements to what's increased this tourism spending in Wayne County. Farms like Mount Olive Pickle Factories, the Odom Farming Company, they've also seen an increase in visitors, non-local, coming to their farms to see how things are grown. They just want to get back to the traditional values, the simpler times. They want to get away from the technology and experience farm life. And because that's so special to Wayne County, I see that also being another area of tourism that we can really explore more of and invite people who are from maybe the bigger cities in North Carolina or outside North Carolina to see how their food is grown and where it comes from. It doesn't come from Walmart. So we're pretty excited about those opportunities.
Ms. Carbarger, did she answer your question?
Yes, I know Bill was just waiting for you to get to this part, because I know Bill serves on the committee.
Yes.
And he's our connection to what happened with the tourism here in Wayne County. When I came in this morning, I said, Bill, did I misunderstand the newspaper? All that big increase in tourism dollars? And he said, no, that's for real. And just to say out loud, Wayne County needs to be proud that what's here can attract folk to want to be here,
right,
and come to visit and spend those dollars. It's just a testament to the right decisions being made prior to us getting here. It just didn't, like you say, we can't be just taking credit for all that is happening right now, because it's a sign that good decisions were made early on. What's happening with downtown Goldsboro, the University of Mount Olive is expanding and adding programs, and then collectively we made decisions about trying to move forward with the soccer complex, and just all those things contribute to it. In the Agriculture Convention Center, colleague of mine sitting there, Ms. Edwards, when the first conversation started about us funding the convention center, I reached out to her to ask about involvement for children and what they would learn, Mr. Acock, about the real farm life. I mean, see, in the high schools in previous years, there was a lot of direct discussion and education about how things were grown, what animals contributed, and then more children lived out on the farm and actually saw pigs being grown, and believe it or not, you wouldn't have to be quite as old as me, but I've seen the cows being milked, not with a machine,
Yeah.
when they were really milked the other way. So I look forward to, Mr. Wade, I look forward to the children that you spoke of being able to come out to the MAC Center and see in real time what can happen. Now, just a romantic person I am, I was sitting here thinking, wouldn't it be neat for me to be able to sit there by that video and imagine that I was on a cattle drive. I mean, I like to watch the old westerns, you know. I thought, okay, somebody get a camera on the back of a horse, and in the right situation, I could sit there and get that impression that I was out there on the trail myself. So, number one, I just want to spread the thanks around this morning, but that business about the tourism dollars, that's just, man, that's just exciting to hear.
Yeah,
So,
it is
thank
exciting.
you all.
All right. Do you have any more questions or ideas you want to send my way?
I have comments because I do serve on that board, and so does Mr. Wood and a couple of it. And since I started on that, I was just amazed about the number of tourism dollars that come into Wayne County. And I've worked directly across the street from you guys for years and had no idea, and I really didn't. And so I'm amazed every time I go over there that we go up. It's increased every month, well, almost every month anyway.
Pretty much, yeah. And I say a lot of people are surprised by it, and I think since I'm in the middle of it all the time, day in, day out, I don't see it like, oh, that's my goal is we continue to see a rise and positive impact in our county. But for a lot of folks, that's one of the other objectives for our travel and tourism office is we want to not have people so surprised that people are spending tourism dollars here. We want people to be proud of where they come from, what's offered here. So I'm glad that you're surprised. But I also want to get to a level where we're not feeling that way. Like, we're so proud. We're like, well, hello. I mean, where have you been? Like, of course this is great. So that's one of the objectives that we're trying to achieve too. With even though we want to bring people here to experience the simpler times and our agriculture, we also want to use technology to address that with more promotional videos and social media campaigns, just to target that audience that would have the tourism dollars to spend. So our generations who are looking to travel and experience those interesting, more authentic experiences that Wayne County offers, like our base tours and our farms. I think we just have to use technology in the right way to talk about how simple it is. So we're pretty special, so I'm proud of us.
And you got another event coming up real soon called Beat Week.
Yeah, celebrating our poultry heritage. Yeah, so actually the events kick off tonight. So each night of the week leading up to Saturday, there's going to be some sort of event that celebrates or highlights our poultry heritage in Wayne County and our barbecue roots as well. So tonight is a beer run. You can dress up in your best bird costume, come out to Well Traveled Beer. You get a Bojangles gift card, a free pint at Well Traveled. Tomorrow is another chicken chase behind the hospital. There's a foul play softball game on Thursday. Friday night, there's the Wayne County Cruisers going to be cruising in at 6 p.m. So we're going to celebrate them coming to town with a band, a food truck rodeo. And then on Saturday at 10 a.m. kicks off the Poultry Festival with the car show, vendors, Butterball, Bojangles, Chick-fil-A will be out there. Some of our bigger sponsors are going to have lots of giveaways. There's going to be wing eating contests, more bands. So it's going to be pretty fun. There's also going to be birds. So if you
Let me ask one question before it slips past me. Are you publishing that in some? How is the public going to know that those events are getting ready to take place? I mean, what are we on?
Right. So a lot of the advertising is done on social media, just because it has a better way for us to measure how successful it's reaching our audiences. So on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. But then we also do some print advertising. Our State Magazine has some ads in there. We do billboards, and Go Magazine and The Buzz also has some information in there as well. And I believe the News Argus
Well, that's what I was going to ask our reporters. Will that information reach the news officer like the Pickle Festival? Is it going to be anything like, okay. Most of us are going to be getting it through the news. I appreciate the social media and all that,
Yeah.
but the old timers are going to be trying to find it.
Yeah, we don't want to leave anyone out, so we try to
Okay.
cover every marketing channel we can. But the more we continue to see increases in visitor spending, the more we can spend in advertising to get the word out.
Thanks so much, Ashley, for
Thank
coming
you.
over, giving us an update.
Yeah, we old time. That's just.
Okay, let's jump back to 6 and see the video presentation by our Public Affairs Department.
If I can, right before we do that,
Okay.
I'd like for Pat Garner and Bria McCoy to come up, and if Wayne, who should be able to hear me, can step through the door real quick. I just want you guys to recognize this department that has been doing a lot of work in the background, and this, Pat and Bria, come on. This video represents some of what they do, and as you talk about the immersion room at the Maxwell Center, this team will be so utilized when it comes to people seeing what's going on in Wayne County. I just cannot commend them enough. You have given me the honor to work with them, and you've got 3 of the brightest employees doing a tremendous amount of work out of one little office. And I just want you to know that what you're getting ready to see is just a small part of what they do. And so I want to give them a round. I guess Wayne's not going to come out of the room.
He
But,
wants to make sure the audio is loud enough when it starts.
well, we're
But
we're
he is the
hoping to
brains
play
of
this.
He is the brains of the whole department.
But you guys do a lot of good work, too.
He's also very
Y'all even
shy.
make me look good, so that's a lot of work.
All right. We're going to try this one more time here. Do you need to try the audio? The remote control? TVs were on. And Wayne's gonna come back in here real quick, just to let you know that, today is 5 years since WGTV started, and Wayne and Pat have become, or have begun a program, Waking Up. No.
It's Sunrise with Wayne and Pat.
Sunrise.
It's actually just a version of the morning show that Kim Best and Wayne actually started 5 years ago. Then Kate Daniels came into play as one of the hosts, and as Kate was having, her schedule got really busy, and then I kind of took the role of Kate Daniels, and I've just stuck there.
The goal of the Public Affairs Department, and we've turned in a report to Craig as to what our plan is and our goals for the next 2 to 3 years, is we want to be proactive and show what the commissioners are doing for the county and what the county is doing for the citizens, and this is our way to do it. So we'll have these monthly videos, as well as you'll see a lot going on the morning show itself. But again, here comes Mr. Wayne Alley. He started this 5 years ago, and the department has grown, and this team has grown.
I didn't start this. There's a lot of people involved with this. It wasn't just me.
Well,
A lot of people.
you've done a great job, and I'm very proud to work with the three of you, and the commissioners need to be proud of you all this way. So, anyway, if you guys want to ask any questions or say anything, we're done with our video.
Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We finally got what we've been wanting for a long time. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Keep going, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Pat and Brent.
County manager's comments.
I'm going to keep them brief because I know we're short on time. I did want to give you a little bit of an update on the Hurricane Matthew financial update. As y'all know, we applied for some reimbursements. This was for what falls under the public category, which is our expenses during the hurricane. We've received from FEMA $545,787. We're waiting on one more reimbursement of $144,695, and then we'll be through with getting our money from them. We also had insurance proceeds of $211,534. So when we get all of that in, basically that will cover about $902,017 of actual cost that the county had during the hurricane. Does anybody have any questions on any of that? Okay. We're primarily spending our time right now just trying to keep all the projects on schedule. We've got some engineering contracts and architectural contracts still to negotiate. We finished the one with Stuart Cooper Newell on the one out at the college for the training facility. We've got 2 or 3 engineering proposals that we're working on now, and we are negotiating with MHA Works on the Health Department one. Also, we received the permit from NCDOT for all of the highway encroachments so that we can do the Grantham Sewer Project along their road right away. So that project will be bid out here within the next month, and we'll be underway with that. And I think that's pretty much it. We're also getting ready to bid out the design build on the EMS stations. We now have all the properties, so we'll be bidding that out, and we'll also be bidding out the design build on the Shell building. And up until this most recent rain, everything was going well on Lot 8. They had already undercut it. They had brought the fill back up. So we're hopeful that we were in pretty good shape before the rains hit, but we'll be checking on that. Our other big one, of course, is the sedimentation pond out at the Maxwell Center. We were not finished with that, so I don't quite know what the condition of that was following that heavy rain, but we'll find out shortly. That's pretty much it.
No one question. Mr. Chairman, if I ask Mr. Wood, since Mr. Powers is here, could we maybe get just a brief Hurricane Irma update? I know it's a long ways out, but it's a long ways out, but still, I think we need to be preparing now.
Good morning. So looking at the 8 o'clock advisory,
Hurricane Irma is a very dangerous Category 5. She's up to 175-mile-an-hour sustained winds. So if you look at the Saffir-Simpson scale, that's almost Category 6, which we don't have. It's one of the strongest I've seen in a long time. The hurricane's moving about 14 mile an hour due west. Now, looking at the track, currently right now, the hurricane's about 1,600 miles east of Florida. If the current track holds true from the National Hurricane Center, by Sunday morning early, the hurricane will be 75 miles south of the tip of Florida. So it does have it going straight across and not coming up toward North Carolina. But again, it's a long ways out, so we still got 3 or 4 models that do show it curving up and coming up the East Coast. They do not feel like she'll lessen under a Category 4 before she makes landfall. So she's a very strong Category 5 hurricane right now. And we are meeting with the schools today after lunch to talk about shelters.
Got one not related Irma question, but by chance, earlier today when we were talking about the CDBG and we had public comments, since you're the face of EM, were you invited to the unmet needs or the long-term recovery group meeting today at 3?
No, sir, that's the first time I heard that. In fact, when he made the comment, I stepped outside and called, Craig Brown is my emergency management coordinator, and he hadn't heard of that meeting.
Okay, just curious.
No, sir, we hadn't heard anything about it.
Mr. Gurley, thank you for bringing that up, because you may have added more light on it than I could have, because it would have been a question of mine. Whenever we are requested or people come or send information, most of the time we're relying on our professional staff right here to keep us informed about things that needs to come to our attention. And I would like to think that the public to know they're invited to come down with their groups to bring us information. I mean, I know 4 minutes is not a long time, but they can tell us a lot in 4 minutes. And so for the gentleman that was with the recovery group, in deference to us making all the meetings, you are certainly who we rely on. And as a matter of fact, when they've been down in the past, I think the question was specifically asked, because I know I was interested, do we have the folk to be in place to bring us the information about recovery? And I thought we were informed, yes, we do. And so, once again, thank you for keeping your ear open for questions that would be coming from groups, and I would hope they would invite you to those so that you can bring back to us a professional, informed opinion about what it is that folk want from us, what they can do for the county, and then we can act accordingly.
In our office, we'll be checking on that when we get back.
Any questions, no questions, Mel? Thanks, Bill. Keep us.
Just stay on top of this storm that's coming in.
And welcome back from your long vacation.
I don't bet as many
I can
bills
tell you
around.
Arizona's 105 degrees.
Are you through, Mr. Wood?
I'm done.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, you first.
Thank you.
Because I know you got to leave here about 30 minutes.
Yeah, I got unfortunately a funeral to attend this morning. I have one, I actually have one thing I'd like to talk about. We don't hear a lot about this department in our county because I think I would like to see every commissioner sitting on this board serve on the Department of Social Services Board, because it is truly amazing the employees that are employed, what they do, where their heart is. It's unlike any other department in this county, and a lot of times I understand they're state employees, but the county does pay 30 to 50% of salary. So it's a department that, since I've been on the board for 3 years, and of course Commissioner Pate served, and Commissioner Joe Daughter's on the board now, but it has been a long process. And to make a long story short, we've been looking for a DSS director, and since our last commissioners meeting, we have been doing a lot of interviews, and I can tell you that unanimous, we have finally found what we consider, and this is county also, a person that has accepted our offer. Her name is, and you've seen the press release and so forth, Tammy Shrinker, and that's spelled S-C-H-R-E-N-K-E-R. Shrinker, is that correct, Greg? Because you know her from the past. But she I guess she still is, even though she's given her notice, DSS director, and she's from Stanley County. And after many months of interviews and so forth, I understand that Tammy's will be on site sometime in October, the 1st of October, some in that general range. But I just want to thank the county, both HRs, and of course our county manager, Mr. Parker. We all came together as a DSS board, and I believe we truly have the right person for this position. It was a unanimous vote, and we're certainly looking forward to Tammy coming to be a part of our management system here in Wayne County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Mayo, I certainly appreciate the work that's been done to hire the new DSS director, but I think there's a little bit of a flaw in our relationship with the state. That person will come on board, and the way I understood that person, the selection process involved the state, but that person will come on board without some group of the county commissioners not having met her or had any direct input in the hiring of that person. And as I understand, it's because that is funded partially by the state and by the county. So as that position is hired without the 100% input of the county commissioners who sit on the board, unless I'm mistaken. Do you want to clear that up?
Yes, I will, please. Yes, our assistant county manager, Craig Honeycutt, comes to our meeting, and as a matter of fact, our county manager, George Wood, it is a state-run department as far as the Department of Social Services is concerned. We are responsible for the decisions, no matter if it's made by the county or the state, but we as a DSS board are responsible. What we have learned from our survey is that it is really an advantage to have the county involved with DSS, because the county does pay part of the funding. So we actually partner with the county, and of course that's why you have two commissioners sitting on the board, the DSS board. Right now it's myself and Commissioner Daugherty as a representative. There is not a direct vote by the Board of Commissioners, and that's not required. Is that right, Mr. Parker?
That's right. Now it's going to come at the general statutes say that the board, DSS board, hires and fires the director. Then the director hires and fires all the employees at the department, unlike town and city governments where the council or the mayor or the city manager would have control. That's something your control is in the purse strings. You get to appoint 2 board members, the state appoints 2 board members, and those 4 appoint the 5th board member. But you do not have the authority to hire or fire a DSS director.
And my point
You as the Board of Commissioners.
And my point was that person will appear in the county as an employee without some group, without this 100% of the county commissioners knowing who that is, or having not come in contact with her, or any specific information being shared about that selection. unless I'm mistaken about,
Well, you'll
maybe
be.
it's just me.
Could I address that? Could I, the county commissioner will be invited sometime before October. We are trying to set up a time that Tammy can come to Wayne County for a meet and greet type meeting. And when that is set up, all the county commissioners will be invited to come to that. So you will be able to meet with her, ask questions and so forth. But Mr. Parker has stated that, yes, we want the commissioners to meet her, but the bottom line decision was and is the DSS board. But we want to include, like for instance, Geraldine was involved in our application interview process, and she's the HR director for the county. So we include the county because it's always good to do that, because we all have one goal in mind.
If I could add to that, we've invited Ms. Shrinker to be at the next commissioners meeting, and she's accepted, so she'll be here on the 19th.
Just to finish my comment, I did attend the health board meeting, and of course, most recently, the Goldsboro Wayne Transportation meeting. And just to keep the public informed, there was some discussion at the transportation meeting about the fact that at some point, our director will be retiring, and there's a move afoot to bring in an assistant and or a trainee for that position. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to call that person, but I would encourage the public to stay in contact with our Department of Human Resource, so they'll be alerted as to when that position actually is made a public invitation to put in an application for it. So I just say that out loud to the public, so if anyone out there is interested in that line of work, to please keep their antenna wired. My comments that I would have made about the disaster recovery, and I intend to say something about that, but I think Mel has done enough about that so far. Thank you, Mr. Gurley, for shedding some light on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Butler.
I think all of us were somewhat surprised at hearing that FEMA comes into our community and works with those people that are so affected by the storm, that have lost their home, had severe damage, and yet they are encouraging them to go out and rebuild and refurbish their homes with the promise in their minds that they would qualify for an elevation. In lieu of, the other option would be a buyout. So rather than accepting the buyout, they would accept the elevation, but at the same time, there are no funds really to allow that we would have available to us for them to elevate. I know Mr. Wright got a little concerned and upset today because he had a lot of information. Two things I learned from Mr. Wright today. One, we're overworking Mr. Crumpler. Number two, there are some real flaws with our system of handling FEMA funds and helping our citizens to rebuild. We need to look at it. And if there's some way that we can provide a little bit more of a correct information so that these people can make a rational decision, I think we need to. I got a text, and I think several of the other commissioners got a text in regards to another individual in the same boat, where he has worked, he is with the promise from FEMA that he would qualify for an elevation of his home. And those funds are not available. They're just not available. They may be available, but may and it actually materialize in maybe two different things. because we're definitely seeing that there's a great need and a short amount of money, small amount of money coming our way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bailey.
Mr. Chairman, I met with East Point last week, and I found out that we have not been approved by Human Resources about the merger with Cardinal Innovation. I don't know when that's going to take place. The second thing is that the former CFO was sentenced to 44 months Fed time a couple of weeks ago with about $500,000 restitution and about 5 years probation after that. And he may get tried by the state of North Carolina. We're not sure about that yet. So he's looking at quite a bit of time and quite a bit of expense. Second meeting was with the Ag Committee, and as you see that we did approve the emergency room, which I thought was a good idea. Very good meeting. It was my first meeting with them since a year or so ago. And the third thing is that I was very glad to hear Mr. Mayo step up to the plate and say he's thinking about submitting a video for his type of business. Is that what you all heard him say?
I can do that.
Recruitment tool,
Okay.
I can do that.
Well, anyway, that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Aycock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I need to start out by going over my calendar so I could defend myself, but I won't because a lot of it is on the boring side. But about the only thing I want to mention is that on Wednesday the 16th, the chairman and Mr. Gurley and myself, we were in a meeting with Representative Rouser, and he's about as frustrated as we are. I mean, he's only got one vote in Washington, and but some of the things that he went over is basically some of the same things that we were hearing today. But I have the confidence in him and our other representatives to try to correct some of these issues with the FEMA process and all. But as we all know, the federal government moves kind of slow. But that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gurley.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on Commissioner Aycock, that you and Commissioner Aycock and I did meet with Rouser, and, you know, I'm so sympathetic to those people affected by Hurricane Matthew, as well as Fran and Floyd also. There's a lot of people affected there that didn't get any assistance. But, you know, we'll keep striving forward to try to get everyone help. But I want everyone to know that I'm in conversation weekly with Congressman Rouser's office and our state legislators about the Hurricane Matthew recovery. And Dwight Williams, who's on staff with Congressman Rouser, is in Wayne County on the first and third Tuesday of every month. So he's always somebody you can knock on the door. And I talk to Dwight regularly. And as always, today's concerns that were expressed at public comments time with the CDBG, I'll express those to the legislators and Congressman Rouser's office and ask them to please expedite that CDBG approval and any other funding might be available for hazard mitigation. And also, I'd like to point out that I think, like Commissioner Daugherty said, a lot of people are being misled about elevations and buyouts and everything's rosy. But a lot of those people that's passing information along that represent FEMA are part-time temporary people. And they don't really know the facts, and that's where I think where a lot of people's getting misled. Now, on a brighter note, today is my granddaughter's birthday. Avery Caution Bell turns 3 today. I'm looking forward to some ice cream and birthday cake and giving her some new shiny toys. Thank you.
I saw that earlier this morning on Facebook. Many of you knew what type of work I used to do, and I worked with the public every day for many, many years. And every time I heard FEMA was coming to town, I would cringe. This is nothing new. And just like you said, they hire people part-time who don't know what they're doing. They would get such false information about what I was capable of doing in my office and my staff. And then, you know, people come to me expecting miracles, and It don't work that way. And they're doing the same thing. So this is a problem on a national level that's got to be solved. Chip can't do it. Now, Chip's doing a great job, but he's going to work within the confines of the law. And I know you, Mr. Woods, spent a great deal of time in Raleigh in the last couple of months trying to figure out the details and how to go through this. And Mr. Harris, I think he's already gone. But it's a really tangled web, this FEMA stuff. And it goes back to me long time. So anyway, I ain't gonna pound on them anymore. All we can do is take our concerns up to our congressmen and our senators and our state folks and try to get things corrected. Yes, sir.
I just would like to make an announcement. I heard over the news that some of the expert claims that it's gonna take $184 billion to recover the state of Texas. FEMA is putting in $7 billion. So somebody's gonna get left out in the cold.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said earlier, even with the unmet needs, how, the impact of Harvey and this other storm out there, what's gonna happen, I don't know. Who knows? We just pray to God that it turns and goes out to sea. But those are my comments. Or is anything else that needs to be brought before this board?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
One quick thing. Some of the speakers who came arrived after Mr. Wood had made some comments about, once the grant is approved, that we would be looking to hire a person. And some of it, that was just, that thread of information that he gave earlier was missed by some folk who said that, and I know Chip has got to be overworked with all the folk that need help, and I know he's doing an excellent job to keeping up with it. But I'm just sorry that some folk missed hearing Mr. Wood's comments earlier, because he was trying to speak to the fact that, no, all the information is not in place yet, but yes, we're gonna be trying to find someone that will have some more time to spend making sure that everyone's concerns are covered. And so I would just want to say that, so as folk might go back and look at the telecast, they look specifically for some comments that Mr. Wood made earlier. And if they do have questions, as a matter of fact, Mr. Wright was getting ready to read over some questions that he had already printed. So please look back at those, because those are some questions that he had put in place based upon the extensive reading that he had done. And so I think we all gonna get there eventually.
Yeah, just a short sentence. A lot of times we don't put credit where credit's due. I forgot to mention, and I should have because it's worthy. God does things in our lives that, through our lives, we all of a sudden one day wake up and say, wow, boy, he sure did the right thing for me. Well, I can say that because as September the 7th, my wife and I will celebrate 49 years of marriage. And I can tell you that it's been a blessing from God that we've lasted that long. But if I had to go over it again, I'd do the same thing. And I've told people that all along. We've been blessed. So I just want to say that with God's grace, anything's possible. I'll put it that way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We do need to go back to closed session, is that correct?
Yes, sir, to discuss the qualifications, competence of prospective employees and to consult with me to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
Is there a motion to go to closed session? So moved. Have a motion on the floor in discussion. All in favor, vote yes.